Hello and welcome back to my craft room. Hopefully you can see a difference in the quality of the film because we've got a new camera, teeny weeny little camera, literally could hold it in the palm of my hand, but makes a big difference, and a big new light which is up there. I've still got to get some more lighting in just behind me here, which will improve things again. And what you're seeing now isn't actually the new camera. What you're seeing is what used to be the top down camera, so it's still better than the one I had up here, but not as good as the one I've now got over the desk. So I'm hoping you'll see a big difference, and it's going to enable me to film things that I couldn't really do before and just show you things in better detail and what have you. You can see what's going on behind me a lot better. One of the things you can see behind me down here is a pile of works in progress, projects in the pipeline. So these are things that I have started and not finished. We've all got loads of those. What I've realised during the course of setting up the camera, because I had to move a whole lot of stuff out, and I thought before I just bring it all back in, I'll sort through, take the opportunity to have a bit of a sort out in my craft room, which of course we all need from time to time, especially when we've got as much stuff as I have in here. I'm very lucky to have this space to myself just for my crafting, but it's never enough, is it? We all know that feeling. In 2006, when I moved up to here to Norfolk from Cornwall, all of my crafting stuff fitted into one plastic tub that would fit on this desk. What I realised is that a lot of what I've got here, so there's that pile that you can see there, there's another pile down here that you can't see, and another pile over there that you can't see. Those are all projects that I've either just started and not finished, or just waiting to get started on. If I just get through those projects and make myself do that before I start anything new, I've got room to keep all my stuff. I don't have to get rid of anything. I can keep all of my fabrics and all of my paints and everything else, and I haven't got to lose anything. So I've been saying for a while now that my mantras for this year need to be use it or lose it, finish what you started. So with that in mind, that's that was the starting point for this project today. So as you'll know, if you're a regular follower and part of our community, you'll know that the Great Big Little Stitchery swap round 4 has just finished. It finished on the 31st of December. That was our deadline for getting our swaps posted out to our swapsters. Whether we did tags like I did this time, I think the majority did, or squares. And at the end of this month, I want to do a roundup of everything I sent out and a look at everything all the beautiful tags that I received back in return, and then get started on the little fabric keepsake book that I'm going to make to keep my tags in. But with finish what you started in mind, as well as use it or lose it, I'm going to make myself go back and finish the keepsake book that I started for the first swap. So I did the first swap and the second swap, skipped the third, and I've just done the fourth. Absolutely love the whole process of putting these squares and tags into books. You just get to enjoy them all over again, and it was a bit of a labour of love because I was stitching a page specially for each one and what have you, and it does take a time, and I just kind of got sidetracked by other things. But now I'm going to come back to it and make myself finish this in time to move on to the next one. So I'm going to put everything else to one side and focus on this for a bit. And one of the things I'm going to do is use these strips of fabric. Now I didn't cut these into strips. These were sent to me in a parcel. I think these might have come from Fabulous Jack's. I'm sure if she's watching she'll tell me. So these are strips of fabric. They're all in mostly pinks and reds in there. And I'm going to look at 3 different ways to make a background using strips like this, because even if you haven't cut strips especially for something, you quite often end up with thin strips of fabric, don't you? There are lots and lots of different ways, but today I'm going to focus on 3 main ways, and then I can use them to create backgrounds for the pages in my keepsake book. So let's go to the desk. I've got a new piece of software I have to use to control the camera, so bear with. So you can even see, normally you can't really see when I'm in that little window in the background there, you can't really see it, but I can see now. You can see it much more clearly because that's a better camera. So this is the new camera. Now the desk will be better lit when I just need another light here, but that's going to wait for a little bit longer. But yeah, you can already see how much better the detail is, and if I can manage to work the software so that's wide angle, can zoom in a little bit more, but Tom tells me that that's not really improving you're not really going to get it. It's going to lose detail if I zoom in too much more. So if I zoomed right in like that, yes, it looks bigger, but you're not getting the sharp detail. So let's come back to there for now. So these are the strips that I'm going to use today. And there are lots of different ways. I've used strips before. I've made these scrappy string squares before. I'll try and remember to leave a link to that. I've done Manx quilting before, and I revisited it again just recently as well, and made a fabric flow book with some. This is another pair of Manx Quilt squares that I did, that you could easily turn those into a cover or inside pages for a keepsake book. I've actually got some squares that Christine Preston sent me in here that I thought I might stitch these together and make a little keepsake book. It's a nice way to keep them, they stack up, they look nice on a shelf. I had some small ones from her as well, so I could do a similar thing there, or maybe do a concertina book with those. But yeah, it's the Manx quilting is such an easy way. You get this really brilliant effect, but it's all just straight stitching, just a running stitch, no back stitching needed, no machine needed. It's just a running stitch. You don't actually see any of the stitching because you fold the fabric back, and the stitching is all hidden inside there. You can see in there, so you don't see any of it. And there's no rulers needed. You use parts of your hand for the measuring. Therefore, every square made by every quilter is going to make a different square with different dimensions. This one is a little bit crooked, you can see. I've not gone straight. Doesn't matter to me. If it matters to you, you can be more precise. I did a bit better in that one. There's all sorts of beautiful examples of this if you have a look online, but let's put that to one side for now, because that's not what we're doing now. My tendency is I love doing this. I haven't not gone back to this because it was a chore. I was loving every minute of it, but then something shiny takes my attention, and I can't wait to start the next exciting project. So yeah, I need to zone in on this for a bit. This is the second half of the Great Big Little Stitchery Swap #1 tags that I got in. This is the book I made for the first half, and for the cover of this one, again, I've used little scraps of fabric, but I've done it kind of crazy quilting style. I think I ended up with about 60. I did 45. I sent out 45, but some people sent me more than one. So haven't quite decided. I'm going to put some more fabric here. I haven't quite decided what yet, but I did this little bit of not very good embroidery here. It's okay, it's fun. It's not I'm not an expert embroiderer by a very long way. And for each of my squares that people sent me, I wanted to create a little page that in some way reflected the techniques, the colours and things and ideas that people had used to create the square. And I also wanted to embroider each person's name. So this was Kate. And you can see I've picked up some of the colours, the straight stitching that she's used, and I've embroidered her name there, and I attached them all at the top like this, so that I can look at the messy backsides, because there's just something about seeing that messy backside that just makes me feel very connected with the person that made it. This one was Lisa, and I've done a couple of little sprigs of flowers there to echo the little flowers. So the lazy daisy stitch is the same as Lisa's used there. I tried to put squares opposite each other that would kind of complement each other. I've just left with this book, I've just left the edges torn like this. I've just used a medium weight calico, and I've just left the torn edges because I just love the feel of them. I even like the look of it like that. I could do lace edging or whatever, but I really enjoy this. I find it very tactile. So for this one, I've left it like that. For the next one, I'm doing something different. I'll show you in a minute. Oh, I love this one. I loved this idea of was this Leslie? Yes, here we go. I've embroidered her name there, Leslie. I loved these circular motifs that she's done, all this gorgeous stitching around. Her circles were so accurate as well. I love the colours, so I've picked up the colours and that circular idea and echoed them there. This was Lucy. There's her name. I liked this little, and I've used this a lot since. It's one of the things that happens is, with this and with this, you pick up those motifs and those ideas and things and use them in your own work later on. Angie Russell, I think this was. Yeah, I love the little charm, the little stars and stripes charm there, and this beautiful patchwork here with all the straight stitching. Just love that. I love the simplicity of that, and that's how I've echoed that in the page kind of thing. This one's Heidi. Loved the rainbow variegated thread here in this straight stitching, and I've done a rainbow down here to reflect that. So yeah, with each one I've tried to pick up here is the flowers. Beautiful monogram she did, and I think I've actually stitched into the squares in some cases, so this stitching along here is actually mine. This chain stitch is actually mine, just to kind of blend them in. So this is Michelle. I loved all the seed stitching that she did in here. You can hardly even see it really. Oh, let's go in, let's use the software again, zoom in a bit. Tiny seed stitching gives a lovely texture. Really liked that, so I just covered this with seed stitching. It took me ages, but again I just love the feel of it, so it's worth it. This is another Michelle, so I've got two Michelles opposite each other and they happen to go together colour wise as well. Look at this. Loved so much about this one. Did that little bit of stitching around there to pick up some of the colours in this square and this square and pull the whole thing together. It created this little frame. It was so lovely looking back to this again. It is a joy doing this whole process. This one was Deb. Again, lots of seed stitching, which I've done a little piece of there. The buttons have a significance. Deb's got a huge aversion to pearly buttons, so that meant a lot. And I put these two opposite each other, partly because they go together colour-wise, but also obviously the house theme. Loved all the sequins here in the tree and little buttons, so I'll put some sequins down there. This is Nancy, so Nancy's name goes there, and again this seed stitching, which I love. Oh, it feels so gorgeous. So more seed stitching there. Oh, look at this. Look at delicate writing there, all done in stitching. This is Debbie. I loved the trails. She did these straight stitch trails for the butterfly, so I've kind of continued them. So this one I've continued down to there, and then when you lift up I've sort of continued it behind. Diane, gorgeous. Look at this little bird. It's got a little fibre, gorgeous fibres used to make the nest there. She's got French knots dotted around, so I've dotted them around here in similar kind of colours, just again tried to pick up the colours of both. This one was from Sylvia. This is the very first one I received, and this was the second one, so they've gone together, and they kind of go together as well in their colours and things too, don't they, I think. So I've just again picked up the floral motif here. Little sprigs there, put Sylvia's name. And this one was from Snoppy, and I've tried to kind of copy the flowers that Snoppy's done and the little leaves and things, and continue them behind to sort of bring it out into the page. I liked these crosses that Snoppy did, where they're not like that shaped cross, they're like the little plus shaped cross, so I put some of those up there as well. Oh, this is sweet. I loved this. Is from Pat in Australia, who sent me actually 3 squares, but she made this look like a mini kawandi, because I'd been mad into kawandi at the time, and she even put the little mini fuller there for me to stitch in, so I stitched them on here. Put her name there. Lots of straight stitching, because that's what the kawandi's all about really. And then she sent this one as well. I haven't done the name again because it's the same person. I loved the herringbone stitch and the cross stitch, so I've done some of each along here, and love the look of that. Absolutely love the look of that, and that's something that again I'll take forward and use that idea again myself. This was also from Pat, I believe. Yep, so I've put her name again just in case there's any confusion. And she sent this lovely little kind of snippet piece, absolutely beautiful, these layers of lace and things all stitched together, so I put that underneath as a nice little surprise, which it was, because I'd forgotten that. Gorgeous laces and things, this little bee charm, and it's just so pretty and delicate, and again with the herringbone stitch. So this herringbone stitch along here is actually my own, which I've done to attach the square. Put some more up here, and I've done some feather stitch down here, which I really like. Not feather stitch, Y stitch. Hazel, and got some of my favourite flowers again. I always love a daisy flower. This little cute pom-poms, buttons, so many sweet things on here. Lots of straight stitching again, which I've echoed in here. And I've done a little cluster of flowers. I think the colours of those two complement each other really well. This is Sue. So with this one I liked the kind of swoopy shapes, so I did some of these in chain stitch myself in a similar colour, so this will kind of extend this out into the page. More of those little crosses that are more like plus signs than the normal crosses, which I really like, so I put some of them along here too. I loved this underneath the piece of net there, gorgeous. And I loved this little like detached Y stitches with a little bead at the top of each little leg. All along here I've echoed that Y stitch, but I haven't done beads, I've done little French knots at the top. And this is Mary. This one came all the way from Brunei. I loved the this outlined flower shape that she'd got in the background here. There's so much love here, you know. So I continued that flower underneath here. And I also loved the sort of little twin, it's like seed stitches, but they're in little pairs. I loved that idea, and I've used it a lot since, and so I continued it. I stitched actually into it up to here and out into the page. And then this gorgeous, glorious mass of flowers here. So much work in this. There's bullion knots and French knots and roses. I've forgotten what it's called, how you do them. There's lazy daisies. There's so much in it. It's such a lot of work in here. And I continued some of that out into the page as well. Obviously Mary's name there, Sue's name there. This one was Rachel. I put Rachel's with Jen partly because Rachel had just started. This was her first bit of slow stitching, and I know Jen had sent her some lovely supplies to get her going, and you can kind of see the connection, I think, when you look at these two. I absolutely love this. So much fun. And I've picked up again some of the things, colours and stitches and things that Rachel's used to put her name there. And this gorgeous one with all this lovely crunchy texture from Jen. Did I show Rachel's name? Yes. I put some twinkles there because this is a very twinkly piece. And here, and I've just outlined it with lots of straight stitching to set it off and pick at some of the colours and help to pull the two kind of together. And that's the end, except for I've just done this piece, which I think will go in as the end page. Remembering the great big little stitchery swap. I did a lot better. I'd had a lot more practice by this stage. I did a lot better with the embroidery, I think. It's still not perfect, but it's, for me, this is a huge improvement. So I think I'm going to put that one in the back. And that is my first book. I've still got to do another volume just to finish up. These are the rest of the great big little stitchery swap round 1 squares, and then I've got these from round 2, so that'll be another book. And then I've got all of my tags to get to, but I want to really, I'm going to try, I might have to simplify things a little bit because you can see how much work there was in the background of pages of some of those. I need to put these together in a bit of a quicker way now, I think, in order to get this finished. So that's partly why I have shown this before, but it's partly why I thought I'd show it again, because some people won't have seen it, weren't watching the channel back then, and also just to sort of explain why I'm having a bit of a change of how I'm doing this. I'm going to do it a little bit less embroidery and more kind of just straight stitching and adding pieces of fabric and things. I may have ended up getting some of the first and second swap ones mixed up together, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. This will become the front cover. This will be all this bit will be hidden. The very first tag I've put in, I've chosen to put this one first because you can see, this is the one that Annie made me. You can see how dimensional this is, and I love that she did this to commemorate the whatnot, because that was another big thing that happened that year. So I decided to put this in right in the front and cut an aperture in the front cover that this will come through. That will be the inside cover. This will be finished off once I put the outside part on. Obviously I'll finish these edges in some way. Haven't quite decided how yet. But I can't do the cover until I've done the rest of the book, because I'm not quite sure how fat it's going to get. So I've just got to avoid the temptation to make the cover now, because I really want to see what it's going to look like, and wait to the end. So that's my first. This time I haven't left the frayed edges. I've stitched them together in kind of pairs of pages. So you need to think about how the pages are going to go. You need to go through and work out what pages you want where before you start. I'll show you why in a minute. Took me a bit of thinking through. It might be just be me. So this will open like this. This will be the first page. It'll open like that. And then these next two ones are both from Paula, so I put them together. Although they're different colours, they're both birds, they're both New Zealand wildlife and plant life, and both came from Paula, so they belong together for me. You can see I haven't got my pages exactly the same size, and that frayed edge is going out over the top. Not going to worry at all. I want it to look a little bit ramshackle. Here's Paula's name. Paula sent me some of the fabric that she used, that she cut this from, so I put some of that on the back, and I just stitched into it a little bit, just done some thread painting into this kind of corner. I haven't done it all over, but just to echo a bit of what Paula's done there. And then I've stitched a little bit of an offcut of something from a bazaar pack, I think, down there, and I've done a bit of that German blanket stitch that Christine was demonstrating in her dictionary of stitches. So it's like a blanket stitch, but it looks like lots of little people, which I think is really cute. It kind of symbolises friendship, which is what this swap was all about, really. This is the other one. Got what this little brown bird is called. I've forgotten what both of them are called now. She sent me a little piece of the fabric again, so I cut it out, thread painted into it myself, got well carried away. You can see I did a ridiculous amount of work on that, but I so enjoyed it. And I did some shisha work and things as well. In this piece, Paula had used, she got some pieces from Bazaar all the way over to New Zealand, and she used some of those to create this piece. I wanted to sort of reflect that Indian thing, and also these sparkly bits here, so that's why I did the shisha work. And this is just a sheer piece of fabric, actually, a bit of organza that I've put over the top of that fabric, and then I brought the foliage out there so it would kind of tie in with this. And it was after this point that I got sidetracked by other things, and because each of these pages was so time consuming, I hadn't got very far. So I have only just now completed the next page, which I started live yesterday, that you may have seen if you were watching. This one's from Nicole, so you can see I've gone a bit more simple with these two, but I think it sets these off really well. Love the colours and textures in here, and I've done Nicole's name there and surrounded it with lots of seed stitching, which she's used all in here. I just used a tiny bit that kind of duck egg blue green kind of colour there just to set it off. But other than that, I've just picked up colours that are in there, and I think they go really well with this one. You can see a little peak of a darker blue, which it's a bit of an accident, but it doesn't matter because it kind of picks up this darker blue here, so that's fine. Because Sandy sent me 3 different things that I wanted to put all on the same page. Love this piece with all the vintage lace on it and rick-rack, and lovely little, look at this little tiny paper bead and a little charm, all of these glass beads. Beautiful little ballerina charm here, so cute. Love the texture of all the fabric she's used and the colours, it's really gorgeous. And then she sent me a completely different piece, which was this, really, but I could actually, I'm very tempted to stitch into that, and could yet come back and do that because I've left it free again, just attached here. But I need to rein that in for a minute and get this finished. And Sandy also sent me, you can't really see now because it's sort of merged in with the page, but it was a little piece of a strip, like a little border embroidery template, and I'm not sure if it's meant to come out with heat or something. You can still see the blue lines under there if I pull that back. So I just followed the lines. I added a little bit of colour in with Inktense into the birds and the leaves and these flowers, and I started this bit yesterday, and this bit and the French knots were all done during the live. You can see the blue dots under there, and I'm hoping this will come out with heat. I'm going to blast it with my hairdryer or something in a minute. I can't iron it because I'll squash all the stitching. But anyway, I'm not going to worry about it too much. I think it fits in fine. It was nice to put her name along there. It fits in with the colour there. A little bit of the blue frame peeks out, but as I say, that works with that, so that's all fine. So now I'm ready to move on to the next page, and this is where I thought I'll explain what I mean about how you have to think about how you're going to lay the pages out before you start. Here we go. This is my next page, and this was the square that I got from Sue Brown, Magpie Sue. You might know her as Magpie Sue. And I'd been sent in with one of the swaps, I'd been sent these gorgeous batik squares, and I'm really sorry, I can't remember who sent me them now. I don't think it was Sue, I think it was someone else, but the colours went so well I used it for this. I embroidered her name there and did a lot of embroidery into the batik patterns because I just love doing that. This is all, yeah, but it just feels so nice. I had a lovely time doing this, enjoyed every second of it, and then realised I'd spent like 2 evenings doing this. It's just one page in the book. This was, I think, cut off the selvage of a piece of fabric and then I embroidered into it. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed doing it, but I need to speed up a little bit. So that will stitch on there like that. And what I will do now is stitch these pages together down there. So what I've got to think about now is the next kind of pair of pages. So I'm going to put this one from Diane opposite. I had this, I think this was sent to me with those squares by Christine Preston, so I could keep it to go on the Christine Preston book. Oh, I did think it would be really nice because it's similar to what Sue's put on there, and it would kind of go nicely with this, so I think it's going to go in here. I've clipped names on where people's names aren't written on the back or stitched into or whatever. I've clipped names on in case I forgot who sent me which is just as well, because after all this time it is difficult with some of them. I can remember Diane saying at the time, just tidy it up for me a bit. So I might just trim this down here and blanket stitch around the whole thing and then attach it at the top so it will lift up and put this little flower there. And I think that will be enough for this page, so I can start that in a minute as well. So what I need to think about now is, that's that page, and then when I turn over I want these 2 pages, these 2 squares to be next. These both came from Claire. This is a lovely one. We met in Ely for the very first time, and so this square commemorates our day in Ely, which is absolutely wonderful to have. And Claire actually made me 2, so these were 2 big things we had in common. Our love of stitching and having met up in Ely for such a happy memory. That so those are going to be my next 2 pages, and then the next one will be this. Following on from that will be this one from Christine. So I'm going to put that to one side because I just need to do this pair of pages. Because what you need to do is do this section and this section and stitch those together face to face to create something like this, if that makes sense. So if you don't lay it out before, you could easily fall into the mistake of ending up with the wrong one opposite. So yeah, I could easily have done it the wrong way around and ended up with that opposite, which wouldn't be the end of the world, but it's not what I want. I want that one to be opposite this one. So I just needed to lay it all out first, and then I can take each of these, I can take these apart now, put those 2 to one side a minute, and I can just work on this one. So what I'm going to do now is use 2 different ways to use strips like this to create backgrounds that you can slow stitch into. And I think I'll start with this one on the left first. Let's take this out of the way for a minute. So I'm going to just fold my square in half first. Now I'm going to pull out some of these strips that will go nicely with this. And if it goes nicely with that, it should automatically go nicely with this one. I'm going to put it opposite because I've already decided that they go together quite nicely. So I'm not going to worry about that too much at the moment. And I'm just going to pick out some that go with that. Now these are quite a lot of pinks and reds which don't necessarily go with these, so I'm going to hold up each piece and just pick out the ones. Hopefully there will be enough that will go with this really well. And that doesn't fight with it, does it? So okay, good, and it echoes some of the circles that are in there as well. And some of them could be quite short pieces because I need some. There's reds in there, so red can definitely go in. That kind of doesn't feel like it goes to me. Yeah, I like that. So this will be kind of like the pattern in Maria's square, which in turn was probably at the time it was around the time I was doing my scrappy string squares, so that might be what inspired her at the time. And I think that'll just make that, they'll set each other off really nicely. There's cacti there, so that's quite nice. Right, that can go there, a little piece of that. Obviously a lot of that's going to get cut off. Now if I was going to do it like Maria's done it here, leaving the raw edges, then I could use really thin strips like these, and I do love the look of that too, like this one, and I will sometimes deliberately fray the edges out, but in this case I don't want to. I think I want to do a different way, because I've done the scrappy string squares where I didn't bother about turning edges in and things. This time I wanted to just show a sort of neater, tidier way, because that will appeal more to some people, I think, and it'll just give me a, just give me a different look. On this one I think I've just left the raw edges. Yes, I have, you can see that, but I've stitched over them. What I'm going to do is show a slightly different way of doing it. So I think I can see I've got more than enough there. I'm going to take them off in the order I've put them down in. I don't think the order's going to matter too much, to be honest. Well, what I want to do is not stitch over that line where I've folded the piece in half, because this will be the page that goes with this square, and I want to do something different for that. They won't be opposite each other. Remember, this one is actually the one that's going to be the last one I'm coming to. It's on the underneath. It's really hard to make that make sense verbally. Okay, doesn't really matter what colour thread I use because it's not going to show, so let's use this one. I think I'm just going to leave the points for now and do them last. I feel like I want to put this across here first, so let's just put it down there. I need to be sure that I'm overlapping enough so that when I turn it down like this, it's gonna see. If I stitched it there and stitched it along here and then turned back, I'd end up with a gap. So I just need to make sure. Yeah, okay. Right, so I'm just going to put it, maybe I could just put one pin in, might make things a little bit easier. I'm making sure I'm only going through one layer. I'm going to do a small seam there, that's not even 1/4 of an inch, it's about 1/2 centimetre, not even that actually. For anybody that's wondering, because the question does come up quite often, no, you don't need use a huge great needle like I've got here. I partly do it so you can see a bit better what I'm doing, but also I just find it easier to hold on to sometimes. Pin's already annoying me. So I'm just doing a reasonably small, but not very small, running stitch here. You can see it's not especially neat or small, but it's enough, doesn't need to be for this. I'll just do a double stitch with a knot at the back to fasten it off. Somebody was asking how you make these knots. I just go back through the loop again a couple of times, so go back through the stitch like that, put my needle back through the loop that I've created, oops, try not to drop the needle, and put it through, and that just creates this little knot on the back, which won't show because these pages will be sandwiched together. So I can cut this excess off now, but before I cut it off I just make sure I don't want it to I don't want to cut it off and then find I'm going to leave a gap. So I'm just going to press this back, press it down with my fingers, and I'm safe to cut it off now. So you can see if I'd have cut it flush along there, if I'd have cut it before I folded it back, let's imagine I'd cut it there, right, and then folded it back, I would have ended up with a gap there, which is not what I want. So yeah, just bear that in mind, because that's really annoying when you do that. I have done it. So now let's take a strip of the next colour. I seem to have this rainbow one next. Again, being careful that once I've stitched this and folded it down, it is going to cover the edge. And yes, it is. So I'm just going to line up the raw edges now. Same again, let's show you how I make this knot, because that's another thing someone asked about. So you put this is the pointed end of the needle, you hold the thread along it like that, keep hold of it in your right hand, or do it the other way around if you're left-handed, and then wind around. With this fine thread I'll probably wind around 3 or 4 times like that, holding it now in my left hand tightly enough to keep it together, but not so tight that I can't now pull the needle through. So now holding it all together in that hand, I'm going to use the other hand to pull it through, so I'm still keeping this together, and when that loop all closes up you'll see that it's magically created a little knot. Cool. Right, so now I'm going to start stitching again, leaving that sort of 1/2 centimetre or whatever you want to do seam there, starting right close to that edge of the square. The knot isn't going to show, so I don't need to worry. So yeah, what I'm hoping is that by using methods like this, I'll do some patchworking and things as well, and just you know, like I've done with that background, but without all the stitching into it, just covering it with straight stitching. That would be a lot quicker way of me creating some of these pages. So instead of picking up all the different stitches and things and doing complicated embroideries, which I loved doing, well, I can't really call them embroideries, but I love doing, but I just haven't got the time. So instead of that, I'll still create a page for each square, but I'll reflect the colours in it, and I can't, if I carry on taking as long as I have on each one, I'm just never going to finish it. I really, really would like to get these done in time to start the tag book at the end of this month, once I know that all of my tags that I sent out have been received, hopefully by then. Let's fold that back. Oh, look, only just left enough there. There we go. So that makes that really quick and easy, but it makes a nice neat seam. I'll do this one next, or would it be better to have a break and do the red next? See, I put all these down, didn't I? But I'm changing it as I go along anyway, so okay, I'm going to do this, I think. I don't think I want that much white, so rather than matching up raw edge to raw edge, I'm going to imagine my raw edge is about here, because I don't want all of this white. So this will be a pretty quick and easy way of creating a page, and not taking too much thought or attention, really. So I should be able to get these done pretty fast now. I'm not bothering to give dimensions for these pieces, because it's going to depend on what you're making your book for, but this fitted quite nicely with the 10cm squares we were swapping, so just in case you're interested, that's about 38 centimetres by 16-ish. Okay, so I've stitched all the way along there, fold that back down. A little bit of white there is quite a nice bit of relief, and it does echo what Maria's got there as well. Yeah, I think that'll set it off really nicely, and I can put stitching in here. So I'm going to carry on covering this piece with these strips. It won't take me very long now, and then I'll be back to show you how I'm going to do the other one. When I get to this point, which will be the next one, I will make sure that I don't stitch past this point all the way down when I've done this fold. Right, I've finished filling that in all the way, and then I use the offcut from this bit to go in and fill this corner. So you can see I've got quite a lot there that is overhanging that I'm going to trim off now, and I only went up to that fold line in the stitching on that side. So I think I'll turn the whole thing over to trim this up now. Some of these are going back in the pile, and the really little snippets will go in with my orts, I think. My orts aren't just threads, they include the tiny, really tiny snippets like that. Okay, so I could give that a press now, but I'll probably be too lazy. And then I'm just going to put a pin in this one to stop that flapping about. That hasn't gone quite to the corner, but it won't matter because that'll get enclosed in the seam when I stitch the two pages together. So I could do if I wanted to, I could do lots of straight stitching across these. I could do some Y stitching between them, which I love to do. I could stitch into all these little motifs and things, I'm gonna stop myself doing all of that because I haven't got time, but it would be, you can see how this is a really nice, quick, easy, if you just wanted to make a square or a tag for someone for a swap, see how quick it was to put that together. And now you can just have fun, take your threads for a walk, get yourself a whole little pile of coordinating coloured threads and just have fun stitching into it. But for what I'm doing, I think I'm probably going to pretty much leave it at that. These 3 edges will all get enclosed when I stitch the pages together. This one, however, will show. What I might end up doing, I'll leave it for the time being, because I can either finish it with a blanket stitch or something. Once I've done the other page, which I'm going to do in a different way, I could just add a strip of something down here. I'll pick one that will go with both sides and just fold the edges in and make a little bit to neaten up the edges and cover the join, and probably end up just doing a little bit of straight stitching along some of these, just because I won't be able to resist it, but it'll be a lot quicker than what I have been doing. So this will go on that way. Excellent. Right, a couple of things I need to do with this one. I need to just straighten up these edges and blanket stitch around this square. But the bit I wanted to show today is creating the background for it. So this is another way of using the same strips of fabric. This time I'm going to pick out ones that coordinate with this. I mean, that wouldn't argue with it at all, but I can use some of the pinks and things in here. So that's a pink flamingo, that could work. Now this time what I'm going to do is a kind of weaving technique, and this time I'm not going to turn the edges under, although I could. So this time I'm going to just tear strips, snip them, because I love those frayed edges. And this one I'll just take the time to fray out these edges. I think that will then kind of echo what Diana's done here, because she's done frayed edges as well. So let's just pick out, I kind of feel like that's a little bit bright, maybe, not sure. Okay, I'm going to run through my little pile now and pick out all the pieces that I think will fit nicely with this. And there's a lot of colours in here. I've got pinks, yellows, blues mainly. So I will go through and I will snip and rip until I've got enough strips to kind of cover this square twice, really, because I'm going to be weaving them together. I have finished cutting a selection of strips here, so I've pulled out the colours from in here, but I've also borne in mind that this page is going to sit opposite this one, so I've made sure I've picked up some of the yellows and greens, which are also in here. There's not much of them, but there is some, and I've cut them all. I've torn them into strips, and then I've cut them into half, which is just about long enough for this page. It won't go quite to the edges, but that's okay, because by the time I stitch the 2 pages together, those edges will all be enclosed anyway, so that's fine. I've also done this strip. This has got the selvage down one side and it's frayed on the other, and this is what I'm going to keep aside to finish that centre. So it'll show, it might show a bit on this side and it might show a bit on this side, which is why I've put the frayed edge on that side. So now I'm going to start weaving. So I'm going to weave these strips together. So that's kind of the area I'm going to be able to cover. I think this area here I'll be able to finish off with that, and this bit will mostly be caught up when I stitch the 2 pages together anyway, so I'm not going to worry about it. And if I do find I've got a bit of a gap there, I can fill it in later on with some stitching or a bit of trim or whatever. Pom-pom trim would be fun on there. And now I think just a couple of pins to help me along here. Pin that one down there, and then this one I want to put on top. I could do this with a little dab of Pritt stick, actually. That might be an easier way to do it. I've tidied up and lost my Pritt stick now. I say Pritt stick, glue stick. This is actually a boss stick one. Okay, so that one's underneath. This one's going over the top, so it's going to be under, over, you know, the classic. we've all done this at school. The nice thing about using the glue stick is it'll only temporarily hold. If I change my mind in a minute, it won't be a problem. Okay. Right, and this is by no means going to be perfect. So these are all frayed edges, and I will probably fray the edges up even more once I've got this all sort of anchored down a bit. And I liked it. This kind of thing, even fabrics that, you know, I'm not really too sure what to do with will work quite well with this, you know, because you're just seeing little peaks of them next to other things and you're just creating a whole new pattern. It's really fun. It's really fun to do. Where this one's over the top and this one are over the top, they're going to go underneath now. So this one needs to go over the top. It's going to peel that back. This one's underneath, so peel that back. That's going to be on top now. Whoops, stay down. So all the ones that are underneath that top strip are being peeled back now because they're going to be on top. There we go. So now I need another strip to go along here. Should we go for a bit of this yellowy again? That there. And now I can bring that one down, that one down, that one down. Oh. There we go. So I'm going to gradually get this kind of patchwork effect, which is really fun. So now these ones that were underneath the cross piece last time are going to get peeled back this time because they're going to be on top next time. So once you get into the rhythm of it, it's pretty straightforward. Put this piece in, bring them down. Not really needing the glue stick, it's sort of holding together fine. Yeah, it's a fun little pattern. Then this piece will come over here, so that will tidy all of that up. This will be enclosed within the seam. So I've just got a little, you know, easy, quick, easy patchwork, which I can enjoy doing some slow stitching into. What I'm going to do for now is just tack it all into place. Just like this one's coming just short up there, but it doesn't show, the end of it doesn't show underneath there, so I'm just going to pull the whole thing up very slightly. And the same here. I'm just tweaking it to make my slightly too short pieces fit. Now I've got this cute little patchwork which picks up some of the colours in this and the kind of general patchworky style of this. I can now add some lovely straight stitching to it. I can find a little space to embroider Diane's name, or I could make a separate patch for Diane's name and put it in the middle if I wanted. Could add some little buttons and things to echo what Diane's done there. But what I put aside was this one because I've got to remember that this is going to sit opposite this page, and that's got one of those as well. So I think the whole thing, I think that'll fit really nicely. I might just put that on, actually stitch it onto the square even. And of course this page will be under there with this one on, and inside here will be these squares from Claire. So, but that's for another day. But those will be inside there. This one and this one will be stitched together face to face around all three sides and turned through to create a kind of double page like this. I hope I explained that well enough. If I haven't, give me a shout and I'll give it another go. So I'm all set up now. Spend a happy hour or so probably stitching these all together. No, probably a couple of hours, because I then want to blanket stitch around this and stitch that on as well. And then this one has to be attached. I've got to embroider their names, so it's a good 2 or 3 hours. That'll probably be this evening, and then I will be back in the next one. I will show how the 2 pages will go together, and then how to attach these individual kind of signatures, if you like, together. Yeah, that's probably a better way to describe it, as a signature. It's kind of 4 of these individual pages, facing pages, all together in one signature. So what I will do next time I come back, I will have finished all 4. I'll put them together into one signature and then show how they attached into the book. Very colourful. I need a bit of colourful at this dreary cold time of year. I hope you enjoyed that. That's just kind of 2 different ways to use strips of fabric to create a background to slow stitch into, or to create a cover with, or a quilt with, or whatever. You could also definitely do the scrappy string square version, where it was just all frayed edges and lots of stitching. I'll try and remember to link to some of these videos that I've mentioned, and the Manx quilting one that I've done just recently as well. Manx quilting is just so easy to do and really quite addictive. So they're all using strips. With the Manx quilting, the strips are traditionally a certain length. It's actually you tear them the length, the distance between the base knuckle of your thumb and the base of your thumbnail. Whoops. Actually, but it doesn't matter, you know, you could adapt it, just use the same method and just slightly adapt it to suit what you've got. I mean, these strips aren't quite long enough to meet that, I could definitely use the same method to make use of these strips. You could also cut strips into small patches and patch it all together, but actually the weaving method is a quicker way of doing that, really. Just before I go, I would love to say a huge thank you to our channel members. 2 new people to give a shout out this week, Liz Sawyer and Little Sparrow. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. It's really kind of you, and I'm so excited that we now have 28 members. If you are interested in supporting the channel in that way, if you have a look down here somewhere, there's a join button. You can click on that. It won't just instantly join you, it will just bring up a little window that will tell you all about it. Don't worry if you can't or don't want to, not a problem at all. You can still show your support by subscribing. That doesn't cost anything, and you can also like and comment on the videos. It's all much appreciated and all kind of helps us to grow. And of course, everyone's still welcome to be part of our community by joining the Facebook group and or the Discord community. They're all free, and such a lovely bunch of supportive and inspiring people in there. None of that is changing. Nobody needs to feel they're going to be left out because they're not a channel member. That's not the case, but we have created some extra little perks, like little fun custom emojis for our members as a thank you. So you will see them cropping up in the comments. You'll see little badges next to their names, and you'll see emojis that other people haven't got. That's what that's about. And as I've been talking, their names should have been scrolling up here. All of my lovely, what I'm calling my found-in fartists. Thank you so much to all of you. I really, really appreciate your support. And thanks to everybody who supports us just by watching and leaving comments and joining in the lives and being part of the community and everything. It's all just, yeah, it means a lot to me. Quite enough waffle. One of our favourite emojis so far is the waffle one. I suspect that's going to get used quite a bit. I'm really going now. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed those little ideas. It feels like it's a bit of a ramshackle video, but I hope you got some little ideas out of that. And I'll be interested to know. Let me know what you're doing with your swap squares or tags. Hopefully next time I come back, you'll start to get more of an idea of how the book will go together. I won't be filming all of it, but I will be focusing on it very much now until it's done. Thanks again very much for joining me. I'm still waffling. I'm going to stop now. I'll see you again soon. Bye.